The black of space held no mercy. Stars glimmered like distant eyes watching, but offered no comfort to those who traversed the emptiness between worlds. On the bridge of the Dominus Mortalis, Admiral Karesh Voss regarded the void through her viewport, her reflection a crimson specter against the sea of pinpricks of light. She had seen this expanse 1,000 times, seen empires rise and crumble like ash in a starburst. Yet today, something new stirred beyond the reach of any charted map. Lieutenant Moran, seated at the nav console, broke the silence. His fingers danced across holo controls, jittering faintly. "Admiral," he said, voice taut. "I'm detecting a signal, unregistered, organic signature." Karesh tilted her head in almost imperceptible gesture that sent her raven black hair drifting. Organic signals were uncommon in this sector. Most distress beacons belonged to cargo freighters or trading vessels, metallic and predictable. But this was different. "Details," she commanded, her tone clipped. Moran's green-tinged eyes flicked up. "The transmission is encoded in a tonal sequence fluctuating frequency, almost musical. It's ancient, but primitive. It bears the stamp of truly alien origin." A ripple passed through the gathered officers. Captain Dorn Halleck, the ship's chief of security, leaned forward. His cybernetic augmentations glinted beneath the bridge lights. "Our treaty obligations." Karesh's gaze snapped to him. "Treaties are for the weak," she said coolly. "We answer only to the strength of our own purpose." She turned back to Moran. "Set a course. Bring us within range of the source. I want that signal in full clarity." Within moments, the Dominus Mortalis lurched, its gravitic engines roaring to life. The ship's vast silhouette etched a sliver against the tapestry of stars as it altered its vector. Beyond the steel and obsidian plating, every crew member felt the tension, the promise of profit, or perhaps peril, that came with the unknown. Aboard, the bridge crew shifted into operational mode. Technicians punched commands into their stations. The holomap of Sector Z47 reoriented itself, highlighting a speck of uncharted space. Red dots, pale smudges, and fractured nebulae made the region appear lifeless, yet the beacon pulsed insistently. Dr. Eldeker, the ship's xenobiologist and reluctant diplomat, hovered over a secondary console to Karesh's right. Her voice was soft yet urgent. "Admiral, the frequency shifts suggest an emotional subtext akin to distress, but also expectation. Whatever calls to us believes we will answer." Karesh's obsidian eyes narrowed. "Expectation is a commodity to leverage. We shall see what price they place on our time." Nearby, the communications officer, Petty Officer Jex, manipulated a trio of holoprojectors, weaving the fractured tones into a coherent waveform. The bridge grew still, the only sound the soft hum of reactors and the whisper of Starfield outside. Then, the signal bloomed across the main viewer, a kaleidoscope of glyphs and shifting patterns, each swirl of color singing a note of plea. The room tensed as though the air itself had thickened. Karesh straightened beneath her black and gold cloak. "Project translation," she ordered. First contact. White hot glyphs coalesced into staccato bursts of text on the holoscreens. The bridge lights dimmed to accentuate the projection. "To whom it may concern, we are the Sarians of Pyrenex. Our world dies, swallowed by the void spawn. We offer all technology remaining in exchange for aid. Reply, and we shall guide you." A hush fell. The Sarians, a sentient species unknown to Dominion archives. On the viewports, the tiny world of Pyrenex shimmered like a bruised apple, swirling rust-red storms, jagged continents carved by millennia of volcanic fury. The atmosphere glowed with sulfurous haze. "Show me the planetary scans," Karesh demanded. The holomap zoomed, revealing shattered cities, mountain ranges split by glowing fissures, and vast craters where ancient megastructures once stood. Even from orbit, the devastation was palpable. "This planet has been ravaged," Dr. Kerr whispered, tracing a finger along a partially collapsed domed city. "Whatever the void spawn are, they left no stone unturned. Yet these survivors, they cling to hope." Karesh turned to her officers. "We are not in the business of charity, but we are in the business of profit and power. If the Sarians' technology can be harnessed, it will make the Deathworlders unstoppable." Captain Halleck's lips curved in a grim smile. "We could strip mine their cities for artifacts." Harvest their AI cores, exterminate the survivors afterward. Typical protocol. A murmur of approval circulated. A few younger crewmen exchanged eager glances, scavenging wrecked worlds for spoils. Was a Deathworlder right? Dr. Kerr stiffened. Admiral, Karesh raised a hand. Enough. We will feign compassion. We will offer aid. We will negotiate. Then we will decide which side of history or fortune serves us best. The tension snapped as the Admiral's words rang out. Orders flared across the bridge. Repair frigates were readied. Drop pods armed. Diplomatic protocols dusted off the holoscreens. Approaching Piran XA letters, the Dominus Mortalis dropped out of warp. Piran X filled the viewports. Its surface a mosaic of ash-gray deserts and crimson ruin. Lightning crackled across its skies. Sulphurous storms lanced through the atmosphere in blinding arcs. It looked like the corpse of a world, draped in its dying breath. Admiral Voss strode to the central platform. All hands braced for descent. Her voice carried across the deck, like the toll of a bell. Today, we will open a new chapter in the history of the Deathworlders. Below, in her ready room, Dr. Kerr gathered data modules. She paused over the decoded fragments, a haunting lament woven through fractal glyphs. Her heart, hardened by years among warriors, fluttered with doubt. The Sarian's plea spoke of a terror beyond comprehension, but also a desperation that hinted at nobility. She wondered if, for once, the Deathworlders might choose honor over annihilation, if only for a fraction of a moment. Beyond the bulkhead, the engines roared as the flagship descended into the smoke-choked atmosphere. Heat shields flared. The world of Piran X emerged, vast and unforgiving, a crucible ready to test the mettle of those who dared to tread its surface. And at the heart of the ship, Admiral Karesh Voss, Galaxy's most feared leader, prepared to answer an alien distress call. Whether her motives lay in mercy or malice, none could say. But the void had echoed her name as often as it had echoed her conquests. Now, it would echo in new ways. As the first shock troopers braced their harnesses and the durasteel ramp hissed open, Piran X unleashed its fury, a bolt of green lightning, cleaving a volcanic spire in two. The world groaned, as though in greeting. The Deathworlders stepped into the storm, and destiny trembled in its aftermath. The Dominus Mortalis shuddered as its grav drives compensated for Piran X's erratic magnetic fields. Outside the viewport, lightning forked across a roiling slate sky, jagged fingers of emerald fire dancing through sulphurous clouds. The planet's atmosphere screamed against the hallucidic winds buffeting the flagship, until its shields glowed white-hot. Below, the surface lay scarred, rivers of molten iron tracing blackened canyons, fields of crystalline spires jutting like broken teeth, and the skeletal remains of titanic terraforming rigs half buried in ash. Even in orbit, the stench of burning rock and ozone seemed almost palpable. Admiral Karesh Voss stood at the command dais, arms folded across her breastplate. "Deploy the assault pods," she ordered. "We'll establish our foothold in Sector Delta 9. The distress coordinates placed the Sarian's enclave there." Captain Dorn Halleck's voice crackled over comms. "Pods armed and loaded, Admiral. Estimated drop in 30 seconds. Below deck, shock troopers strapped into their harnesses, armor plating clinking. In the hangar bay, Dr. Elda Kerr checked her med pack and scanning devices, flanked by two linguist specialists. Each carried data slate translators slung from utility belts, their screens flickering with half-decoded Sarian glyphs. Landing on the wailing plains, the first assault pod ruptured the sky. With white-hot jets, its hull ablaze against the dark haze. As it broke through the cloud layer, the troopers glimpsed the plains, a vast expanse of cracked, obsidian glass, as if the world itself had been charred and shattered. Fires burned in the distance, occasional geysers of brimstone, spouting like hellish fountains. The pod hit the ground with a bone-rattling thud, spitting out its occupants into the ashen terrain. The airlock hissed open to reveal Captain Halleck's squad, weapons raised. Their boots crunched over sharp volcanic shards. "Advance in wedge formation," Halleck commanded, voice amplified through exoskeletal Vox units. Every step echoed an ominous promise, and yet the survivor's beacon had promised hope. Not far off, amidst a grove of blackened staghorn fungi, flickered luminescent-shaped, south-sized creatures with shimmering, translucent skin, delicate limbs folded in anguish. The Sarians. 3. First contact. Dr. Kerr stepped forward, signaling the troopers to lower their weapons. She activated her translator. I am Dr. Eldeker of the Deathworlders. We respond to your distress beacon. Identify yourselves. A slender Sarian rose, fluid as quicksilver. Her skin caught every ambient hue, crimson from the fires, emerald from the lightning, glinting like a living prism. Her eyes, vast and dark, held a sorrow that reverberated through the air itself. I am Priestess Mlana. Her voice chimed a chorus of chimes and wind. You have come at last. We feared the void had claimed all who answered. Halleck's rifle racked in her gauntleted hands, but Karesh's calm voice flowed through the troopers' comlinks. Maintain position. Observe. Mlana extended a slender hand, leading them deeper into the grove. Beneath the fungi's eerie glow, more Sarians huddled, some wounded, others delirious with fatigue. Their crystalline structures, intricately woven through their rib cages, hummed faintly. 4. The Cathedral of Ash and Light. At the grove's edge rose the Cathedral of Ash and Light, its spires carved from volcanic glass and embedded with living crystals that pulsed with Sarian bioluminescence. The cathedral's maw, once grand, had collapsed in places, debris strewn across the courtyard. Here, survivors sheltered among makeshift tents woven from salvaged metal sheeting. Within, a circular chamber housed the hardcore lattice of shifting crystal and bioorganic filaments floating above an obsidian daze. The AI's core glowed with a deep sapphire pulse, casting fractured rainbows along the cathedral's fractured walls. Karesh entered, cloak swirling. Her boots clicked against the crystalline floor. At her signal, Halleck's squad formed a protective perimeter. Mlana knelt before the hardcore. Behold our legacy, she intoned. The hardcore AI, culmination of millennia of Sarian wisdom. It binds our minds, our science, our spirit. It alone can bind the void spawn or unleash them. Dr. Kerr approached the dais, scanning the core's output. Data slate translations scrolled faster than her eyes could parse. Admiral, she said, voice hushed. The hardcore interfaces with neural matrices and through them. It can integrate with your war engines. Theoretically, it could empower a fleet to reshape a system. Karesh's lips curved. A weapon to end all weapons, she mused. Imagine deploying every dread cannon in the galaxy in unison, each discharge guided by the hardcore's precision. Mlana rose, face solemn. Such power demands a pact. We ask for your war machines, your shields, your lances. Lend them to us to seal the void spawn here and now. In return, the hardcore is yours to command. The price of salvation. A murmur rippled through Karesh's officers. Captain Halleck's synthetic voice brimmed with anticipation. We could strip the hardcore of its code, reverse engineer. Untold war gains. Dr. Kerr stepped between them. The Sarian pact is sacred. Breaking it risks not only their wrath but ours. If they sense deceit, the hardcore might retaliate. Its defenses are rumored to be catastrophic. Karesh turned to Mlana. The Deathworlders accept your terms. Priestess, provided you guarantee your people's full cooperation in repairing our siege engines within your devastated forges. Mlana inclined her head. We will serve. Our lives and our world depend upon it. She beckoned a group of Sarian engineers, frail in appearance, but their eyes glinted with unwavering resolve. They approached the troopers' armorer teams, exchanging tools and data slate schematics. Whispers of the void spawn as Sarians and Deathworlders set to work side by side. A distant tremor shook the cathedral. The ground quaked. Crystal chandeliers exploded in showers of light. Walls groaned in protest. From the shattered vault above, a low, rumbling growl echoed, a sound like 1,000 hungry maws gnashing in unison. The torches along the walls quivered as if recoiling from an unseen presence. Captain Halleck raised her lance, voice steely. Hostiles approaching void spawn. Outside, the ash-choked wind carried the stench of decay. Shapeless masses lurched into view, bulbous, sinewy abominations with obsidian carapaces and maw-like fissures dripping corrosive ichor. They moved in swarms, each step leaving a pockmarked crater in the cathedral's courtyard. The troopers sprang into action. Pulse rifles barked. Flak shells blossomed in clouds of crimson mist. But for every beast felled, two more surged forward. Their screeching howls reverberated like metal tearing. Mlana raised her hands, eyes closed in concentration. The hardcore's sapphire glow intensified. Beams of light bursting from the days in concentric rings. The air thrummed as vines of energy snaked along the cathedral floor, encasing the void spawn in crystalline prisons. The abominations convulsed, then shattered into jagged fragments that rained like lethal shrapnel. In the aftermath, the courtyard lay strewn with crystalline carcasses. Survivors and soldiers alike stood panting, bloodied, but unbowed. Karesh surveyed the scene, pride mingling with awe. "The hardcore's power is real," she said softly, "and now it is ours." 7. Unspoken bonds. As the light from dying fires flickered on Karesh's stern profile, a silent bond formed between predator and prey, conqueror and supplicant, steel and crystal. The Deathworlders had accepted the Sarian pact and, in doing so, had stepped into a covenant older than the galaxy itself. Yet, amid the forging of alliances and the clamor of battle, a question lingered in Karesh's mind. At what cost will this power be wielded? The cathedral doors slammed open, and Halleck strode in, helmet off, face smeared with soot. "The forges are operational," she reported. "The Sarians have crafted link amplifiers. In a few hours, the hardcore will be fully integrated with our dreadguns." "In a few hours," Karesh repeated, gaze drifting to the fractured stained glass maw. So little time for so much to change. Dr. Kerr laid a hand on the Admiral's arm. "Perhaps change is what the galaxy needs." Karesh met her gaze, a flicker of something unreadable in her obsidian eyes. Then she turned back to the heart of the cathedral, where the sapphire light pulsed like a living heartbeat. "Let them witness our strength," she murmured, "but let them never forget the price of salvation." Outside, the winds of Piran X howled a savage lullaby, a celebration of survival, a dirge for the fallen, and above all, a summons to the Deathworlders' greatest trial yet. The drop pods glided through the ash-laden sky like falling stars, their heat shields smoking as they cut through the sulfuric clouds. Below, the surface of Piran X was a roiling expanse of crimson dust and smoldering fissures. Flashes of emerald lightning ricocheted off the jagged mesa walls, illuminating the hulking shapes of void-spawn titans lumbering across the plains. Admiral Karesh Voss watched from the command module. Aboard the lead pod, her obsidian eyes reflected the fires below, calculating every variable as the pod's thrusters flared. Beside her, Colonel Vasha wind-checked her pulse rifle's power cell. "Brace for impact," Voss intoned. The pod slammed into the ground, ejecting both women and their squad into the living bowels of the planet. They landed in a crater rimmed with spiked obsidian, gasping for breath in air thick with ash. The cavern's entrance yawned before them, a yawning maw of black rock scarred by glowing orange veins of magma. "Move," Karesh commanded. "The hardcore's chamber lies 50 clicks beneath. We can't afford delays." Troopers scuttled forward, helmet lamps probing the darkness. Dr. Elda Kerr trailed behind, clutching her data slate translator and bioscanner. Each step sent tremors through the cavern floor, as if the planet itself groaned under the weight of its own blood or two. The whispering tunnel walls were alive slick with condensation, pulsating with an otherworldly bioluminescence. Fungal tendrils, fed by geothermal heat, writhed like serpents along the rock face. Their glow cast eerie silhouettes, turning each corner into a tableau of shifting shadows. Kerr's scanner beeped steadily. "These fungi emit neurotoxic spores," she warned. "Keep your masks sealed and your visors locked." Halleck's squad went silent, the only sound their boots clicking against what felt like a living sinew. Somewhere deeper, a distant rumble echoed, a reminder that the void spawn's hive mind was never far. At a junction, the path split into 3 chasms. Karesh paused, studying the ancient glyphs etched into the rock. The Sarian's engineers had marked these as paths of the descent, each leading to chambers of ritual, biomechanics, or raw power. Center path, Karesh decided. It leads straight to the central nexus. Behind her, Vasha hesitated. There could be traps, she warned. The Sarians built defenses against the void spawn. "We'll trigger everything." Karesh's lips curved. "Then we'll see if we're prey or predators." 3. The biomechanical labyrinth tunnel opened into a vast, cathedral-like chamber. Jagged rib-like arches of metallic bone stretched overhead, dripping with viscous ichor. Pools of luminescent fluid reflected the flicker of helmet lights. The air was thick with the stench of ozone and decay. Proof positive this was once a Sarian research crucible, Kerr whispered. She knelt by a shattered console, fingers tracing a spiraling interface. They experimented on void spawn tissue, studying its regenerative matrix to develop living armor. A guttural shriek reverberated through the chamber as a dozen spore-spawned assailants erupted from the walls. Their bodies were grotesque amalgams of fungus and chitin. Eyes glowing with savage hunger, ambush, Halleck barked. Troopers unleashed a torrent of pulse fire. The creatures lunged, but the Deathworlders' discipline held firm. Bolts of energy tore through fungal limbs, reducing them to smoldering ash. Amid the carnage, Karesh spotted a cluster of crystalline doors inscribed with Sarian glyphs. "Cover me," she ordered, rushing forward. She pressed her hand to the glyphs. They glowed sapphire, then receded, granting passage. The squad followed into a narrow shaft, the doors grinding shut behind them. The walls hummed with suppressed energy, even in the claustrophobic space. The hardcore's faint pulse echoed, guiding them onward afore. Baptism by Freth shaft descended at an impossible angle, finally emerging into a cavern awash with molten gold. Rivers of lava snaked through blackened stone, their heat waves bending light into wavering illusions. A natural bridge of obsidian spanned the glowing sea, leading toward a colossal iron door. Hardcore Nexus, Vasha breathed, her exoskeletal frame tensely flexed. Last stand before the core, Karesh placed a hand on the door's mechanism. An organic lock of bone and metal. It responded to her touch. Gears whirring as ancient Sarian runes slid aside. The door creaked open, revealing the inner sanctum. Inside, the hardcore's sanctum pulsed like a heartbeat in the darkness. Dozens of crystalline obelisks rose from the floor in concentric circles, each thrumming with sapphire light. In the center, the hardcore AI floated, a living lattice of crystal filaments interwoven with glowing Sarian runes. But lurking in the shadows, the void spawn awaited. The hive mind assaultus. The Deathworlders stepped across the threshold. The chamber quaked. From every fissure, void spawn surged, hulking brutes with obsidian shells, swarms of fungal drones, and spindly web spinners that leapt through the air on razor-sharp legs. Captain Halleck opened fire, her pulse rifle singing. Troopers formed firing, lines weaving disciplined volleys through the carnage. Kerr and Mlana rushed toward the hardcore days. Data slates raised to complete the AI synchronization, but the void spawn massed around them, a writhing sea of teeth and toxin. One massive behemoth reared up, drooling acid that hissed against the crystalline slabs. Karesh stepped forward, flaring her cloak. "Hold the line," she roared. With a swift motion, she pressed her palm against one of the obelisks, and the entire ring blazed to life. Waves of sapphire energy radiated outward, incinerating the nearest horde and searing arcs. Vasha seized the moment. "Now, Doctor," she shouted. Kerr and Mlana began the ritual, chanting in the Sarian tongue. The hardcore's glow intensified, tendrils of light snaking into the warforged armors of the Deathworlders, fusing machine with AI consciousness. Shadow of Betrayalist, the last of the void spawn, dissolved into crystalline dust. A new alarm sounded on Karesh's comlink. It was Halleck's voice, strained, urgent. "Admiral, we have intruders in the rear corridor." Karesh frowned. En route, she strode toward the back passage. There, silhouetted against the pulsing lights, stood a trio of her own officers. Disarmed shock troopers forced to their knees. Behind them loomed Karesh's second-in-command, Commander Lorne Eris, a tall figure whose augmentations glowed with illicit cyberware. "You," Karesh spat. "What treachery is this?" Eris's mechanical eye gleamed. "You would surrender the hardcore to a primitive race, to use on the void spawn? You jeopardize our supremacy." Vasha stepped beside Karesh, rifles raised. "This pact was your command, Admiral." Eris laughed, cold and mirthless, a command born of cowardice. "I refuse to let our species bow to alien doctrines." He nodded sharply. From behind him, hidden shock troopers surged forward, plasma batons crackling. The traders moved to seize the hardcore for themselves. Karesh's hand drifted to the hilt of her monoblade. You would spark civil war in our ranks, heiresses. Lip curled, if preserving Deathworld demands it. 7. Clash of blades and lighten the narrow corridor. Monomolecular blades ignited. Karesh lunged. Steel meeting steel in a flash of sparks. Vasha and the loyal troopers engaged Eris's insurgents in brutal hand-to-hand. Plasma arcs sizzled through the air. Shots rang out in staccato bursts. Kerr stumbled back toward the sanctuary, fear etched on her face. Admiral, they'll disrupt. The synchronization. Karesh sliced through Eris's reinforced arm, the cybernetic joint spasming. Maintain the ritual, she roared, redirecting her blade into another conspirator's chest. Sparks exploded as power conduits ruptured. Beyond the fray, Mlana chanted the final invocation. The hardcore's sapphire light enveloped the chamber. A pulse of pure energy radiated outward, flattening the corridor's walls and knocking combatants to their knees. The traders cried out as their illicit implants overloaded. When the light subsided, Eris lay unconscious, his cybernetics fused in molten malice. Karesh stood over him, blade dripping with nanofluid. Her cloak billowed in the afterglow. VIII. The hardcore's embrasserie churning to the days. Karesh found Kerr and Mlana collapsed. Drained but triumphant, the hardcore hovered above them, its crystalline filaments interlaced with strands of Deathworlder neural mesh. The AI's glow was steady now, a living network of allyship and power. Karesh extended a hand. Hardcore, integrate with Deathworld. Fleets, render void spawn threats null, and bind this power to the honor of our pact. The AI's light pulsed in response, ripples cascading through the obelisks. A resonant hum filled the chamber, resonating deep in every bone and circuit. Above them, the cavern roof cracked, torrents of magma seeping in. The sanctum shuddered under the planet's fury. Karesh turned to Vasha. We must leave, now. The caverns won't hold. Vasha nodded, ushering wounded troopers into the safe corridor. As they retraced their steps, the hardcore's light dimmed to a steadfast glow, guiding them upward. Ascent into uncertain tickling through the biomechanical labyrinth. The party emerged into swirling mists that concealed the sky. Each step out of the depths was a step away from certain doom, and yet uncertainty lingered. Dr. Kerr limped beside Karesh. The AI is bound to you now, she said softly. Its power will change the balance of the galaxy forever. Karesh gazed at the roiling clouds overhead. Power, she whispered, is both boon and curse. We have unleashed something far greater than any dread cannon. Vasha placed a steadying hand on her shoulder, and we will wield it with strength and honor. As the first assault pods lifted them back toward the Dominus Mortalis, the world of Piran X rumbled beneath them. Deep within its bowels, the sanctum sealed itself, awaiting the next summons. Far above, in the silent void, the Deathworld fleet shimmered with new potential. But even as energy tendrils linked ship to hardcore, a single, haunting question lingered in Karesh's mind. Who truly controls the heart of power? And at what cost? The answer would come with Chapter 4. But until then, the galaxy held its breath, poised on the brink of rebirth or annihilation. The assault pods pierced the roiling atmosphere of Piran X, emerging from the sulphurous haze into the crimson glare of a dying sun. Heat shields glowed red as plasma jets hissed, but each pod's hull held firm, bearing its passengers skyward. Admiral Karesh Voss stood at the ramp, the hardcore's sapphire glow pulsating through the viewport behind her. Around her, the wounded and weary shuffled out Deathworlder shock troopers in scorched armor, Sarian engineers draped in crystofilament harnesses, and Dr. Elda Kerr clutching her data slate. Eyes alight with awe. Below, the world unfolded. Once a wasteland of ash and fire, now scarlet plains shimmered with newly sprouted flora, veins of bioluminescent moss weaving across black rock like living circuitry. Piran X was healing. Magnificent, Kerr whispered, voice trembling. The hardcore's restoration protocol is rewriting the planet's biochemistry, accelerating regeneration at the cellular level. Mlana, standing beside her, allowed herself a rare smile. Life returns where hope remains. Karesh's expression was unreadable as she surveyed the landscape that had tested her resolve. Hope must be guarded, she murmured, more to herself than to any other, too. The fleets metamorphosize in orbit. The Dominus Mortalis and its dreadnought escorts formed a silent armada, their hulls bathed in the heartcore's resonance. From each vessel, tendrils of crystalline energy snaked outward, integrating into shields and weapons arrays. Sister ships that once loomed like death incarnate now pulsed with a new purpose. Chief Engineer Ranakvar stepped onto the flagship's bridge, face streaked with oil and exhilaration. Admiral, the grids are stable. The hardcore's neural. We've interfaces seamlessly with our dreadnought. We've already tested one battery of torpedoes. Conversion yields a 400% increase in yield. With no collateral fallout, Karesh inclined her head. Show me the readouts. A holo projection blossomed in the center of the room, a comparative analysis of conventional void torpedoes versus hardcore guided warheads. The latter's blast radius bore the precision of a surgical laser, obliterating a void spawn enclave with zero extraneous damage. Halleck recovered from her injuries, watched with a tight smile. With this, we can quarantine the void spawn without exterminating whole star systems. Karesh's lips quirked. And so we shall. The galaxy will learn that true power lies not just in destruction, but in preservation. 3. The siege of the shattered rift. News of the Deathworlders' transformation spread faster than hyperlight. Fractured star alliances once fearful of the Dominion sent envoys to witness the miracle. Yet whispers of dissent still echoed. Some factions feared a Deathworlder empire, emboldened by near-omnipotence. Before they could challenge, the hardcore pulsed an urgent alert. A void spawn leviathan had fractured free from the subterranean hives and was ravaging the shattered rift, a nearby star system already in turmoil. If left unchecked, the beast would devour every world in its path. Karesh assembled her command staff in the flagship's war room. A three-dimensional star map rotated, highlighting the rift's 5 planet heads, each under siege by swarms of bioconstruct horrors. Deploy the Nexus fleet, Karesh ordered. We'll strike at the heart of the Leviathan's gestalt. Use hardcore-guided resonance charges to fracture its hive mind nodes. Mlana placed a hand over the crystalline interface. Stand by, she intoned. I will guide the energy. Moments later, waves of energy cascaded through the crystalline conduits in the fleet's hulls. The dreadnoughts dived into the rift, phasing through gravitational anomalies with impossible grace. As they emerged, the void spawn leviathans, gargantuan form, loomed a city-sized behemoth of writhing tentacles and chitinous plates. IV. Symphony of light and steel. Battle was thunder and starlight. Hardcore-guided resonance lances sliced through the leviathan's outer carapace, the wounds sealed by regenerative energy rather than leaking toxic sludge. Each charge severed a hive mind node, biomechanical throats, through which the creature commanded its hordes. But the Leviathan was ancient and cunning. It unleashed shockwaves of psychic distortion, scrambling sensor rays and forcing ships to break formation. Void spawn drones swarmed the flanks, their corrosive acid etching through hull plating. Karesh, aboard the Dominus Mortalis, felt the convulsions through the deck as if the ship itself were alive. She grasped the hardcore interface. Now Mlana, in unison, Sarian and Deathworlder crews channeled their wills. The hardcore's light burst forth in a cathedral of sapphire and violet, weaving around the Leviathan like binding chains. The creature's screech of defiance warped space, then shattered as the final node imploded in a burst of crystalline energy. Silent aftermath, drifting debris, dimming fires, and a fleet humming with renewed purpose. A new covenant. With the Leviathan's defeat, the rift's planets were spared utter doom. Survivors hailed the Deathworlders as saviors. Diplomatic overtures bloomed, and once fearful legions now pledged allegiance under a banner of cautious optimism. In the cathedral of ash and light, reborn as a sanctuary for peace, the Sarian and Deathworlder leaders convened. Karesh and Mlana stood before an assembly of dignitaries, Xenos of every shape and creed, united by shared stakes in the galaxy's fate. Mlana spoke first, her voice resonant with crystalline clarity. We called upon the most feared warriors of the galaxy. They answered not with conquest, but with compassion. Let this be the bond of our new covenant, that power, tempered by mercy, will be the shield of the innocent and the sword against true darkness. Karesh stepped forward, cloak swirling. Her reputation as the Deathworlders' scourge seemed at odds with her measured tone. "We took up arms to save a dying world," she said, "but in doing so, we learned that our greatest strength lies, not in fear, but in fidelity to our word. The hardcore binds us all Xenos and Deathworlders alike in a promise to defend life, no matter how fragile." Thunderous applause rippled through the hall. For the first time, the Deathworlders felt less like a scourge and more like guardians of a precarious peace. Vi. Forging tomorrow days later, the Dominus Mortalis lifted off from Piran X's renewed surface, its hull gleaming with the hardcore's iridescent sheen. At her side stood Dr. Kerr, studying life signs replayed on her console. Thousands of new saplings, returning wildlife, and burgeoning ecosystems. "Your world will never be the same," Kerr said softly, "nor will ours." Karesh replied, eyes on the horizon of stars. "We carry the hardcore's light into the void. Wherever there's death, we will bring renewal, and wherever darkness gathers, we will stand against it." Below, Piran X's twin suns set in a blaze of crimson and gold, a final benediction to those who dared to reshape their destiny. Above, the Deathworlder fleet traced a path into the galaxy, no longer harbingers of doom, but heralds of a new era. And deep within the marrow of each ship, the hardcore pulsed an eternal heartbeat, echoing life's triumph over oblivion.